Hey everyone, this is Vince. This is my 5-minute summary of James Cone's second book, A Black Theology of Liberation. I just finished my longer video on that, so whenever I summarize a book, I try to do 2 videos. One is a shorter 5-minute summary for those who just want a taste of the book, and one is a little bit more in-depth. So this is the short summary. If you like it, check out the more in-depth one on my channel. If you like videos like this, where I take ideas and books, things that I think you should know about, and summarize them, subscribe to my channel. All right. James Cone says that since theology is human beings talking about God, and because human beings always have a particular viewpoint through which they see and experience things, then it just makes sense that all theology has a particular viewpoint. So we can look, for instance, at like a theology written from the viewpoint of a person in the majority, and how it differs from a person in the minority. If you're a person in the majority, most people see things like you do. Laws are made for you to protect your interests. Think, for example, the easiest one, well, there was never a law that you had to be returned to your master if you sought freedom. There was never a law that you had to stay in your own neighborhood. So jobs are also easier for you to get. Corporations cater to you because they want you to shop there, and more people like you because most people look like you and they make more money doing that. For the most part, you are pretty comfortable with the way things are. If you are this person, then the way that you look at and you understand God is probably different from the way that someone in the minority looks at God. A person in the minority, they're the person who laws are made against. They always feel like an outsider. They are forced into slums. They're not comfortable with the way things are, and they need them to change. For instance, let's start off with the big one, and that's God. What does God want? Does God want anything? Is God on the side of the oppressor or the oppressed? Now, while you're tempted to say, well, God doesn't pick sides, God doesn't have a preference, Cone points out that you can't not have a preference because you are either for racism or you are against it. If you're not against it, then you are for it. So minority theology sees it that God must be on their side, if only for necessity. What does it mean to be a human being? And what Cone says is that to be a human being is to be truly free. And I think the best way to understand this is to think about what Paul says to the Galatians when he talks about how we are brought up by these elemental spiritual forces of like hatred and position and power, and we're enslaved to those things. And so Christ sets us free. Well, when Christ sets us free, Christ doesn't make it to where now we can do whatever we want to do. What setting us free means is that we actually become slaves to Christ, and we actually now live for one another and love one another. And so I think that's what Cone would say, is that to be truly free is to rebel against oppression. If we're to look at Christianity through the lens of Jesus, something that we certainly need to do if we're Christian, we notice that Jesus was born a poor minority. He taught from the perspective of a poor minority, and he died a poor minority. Further, his resurrection should be seen as another step in that fight. So, Jesus' resurrection from the perspective of the oppressed is a sanctioning for rebellion. What about the church? In the majority culture, the church is an escape from the world and a place to go and be part of the status quo. There's no reason to want to rebel against the status quo or to change or even engage the world. The majority church is geared toward being an individual. A minority church wants change to happen now. It exists for the community to comfort each other and to engage the world on behalf of a liberating God. Okay, so what is the world? To the majority, the world is something that doesn't need to be engaged. Again, because they don't want things to change. They're happy just looking from afar and prayerfully waiting for heaven. To the minority, the world needs to be engaged because it's the only place where meaningful change can occur. So we can also get from that a view of prayer. To the majority, prayer is hoping that God will change things, but not having to actually get involved. To the minority, prayer happens through action. End of time or death. Again, to the majority, they have the luxury of just waiting for heaven at the end of time or upon their death. To the minority, if God wants liberation for all after death, then God must want it to start right now. It's easy to see that everything in oppressed or black theology revolves around oppression and liberation. So much so that you might get tired of it. Like, can we stop talking about oppression and liberation already? Is this really all there is to the Christian message? And Cone will respond with, I don't know. I haven't been able to overcome it enough yet to look at anything else. Looking for something beyond oppression and liberation is a white privilege. That's the privilege of the people in the majority. So it's not just all that matters. It's that if you're being oppressed, it's all that matters. All right, so I hope that made sense. I hope that you enjoyed that I hope I was in my time frame. Again, if you do enjoy it, look for the longer video on my channel. Please like and subscribe.